What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Board Games Are For Everybody, where today we're going to be taking a look at Lucidity, Six-Sided Nightmares. First and foremost, sorry I haven't been uploading videos too much lately. My summer schedule for work, a lot different than my regular schedule, so I've been finding it a little harder to record stuff. I'm going to try and get back to it, find a summer schedule of sorts, but let's just hop into today's game. So this is a dice game by Sharon Kelly. Basically, you are a dreamer trying not to become a nightmare. That's my best explanation for you. The tagline by the developer: escape from the creatures of your dream realm by claiming their power for yourself, or become a nightmare and hunt down any who dare to stand in your way. Now, this is one we have not played too much. However, we did find it quite interesting, what we have played of it. So this stuff here, not relevant to the game, but just some like art cards that came with the game of the different nightmares, which is pretty cool. Unnecessary, but pretty cool. Just come in with some art and stuff. This is what we are going to need for each player. So each player chooses one of the things here. Now, it is irrelevant which one you choose because you can turn into any of them. This side is specifically for the solo player mode, which we're not going to be going over today. So both players just take one of the things from the pile. On the back side here that has the eyeball, the power gauge, and all of our shadow stuff here. So the way that the game works is that players take turns rolling dice, which are called dreams. Each player can also take a reference sheet and a turn order sheet, and we also need these guys back here. Now, these guys are the nightmares. These come into play a little later on, depending on what dice you draw. Now, a standard game, you're going to have the depths. So we'll just put that up here. You're going to have primal fear. You're going to have imprisonment. And you're going to have envy. Now, if you want to, I believe it is the depth or primal fear. You can always switch out for temptation. It's just a different card to change things up a bit. So for the time being, we'll leave temptation out, but temptation can be switched in for any of the other primal fears. So the way that the game works is that each player is going to alternate turns. Just have to get our thing back here. Just completely forgetting to get pieces. Each player is going to get one of these little gem things here. Okay, we're actually set up now. So on each player's turn, they are going to choose between one of these here to determine how many dice they are going to pull from the bag. So you have an option of starting with 3, 4, or 5. So let's say our first player here decides to start with 4. They're going to place their little token on the 4, and they're going to draw 4 dice from the bag. Now, as you can see on our, if I can pick it up, on our reference card here, there are 4 different colors of dice. You have blue dice, which are dreams of the depths. You have 3 eyes, 2 powers, and 1 exhaust. The dreams of envy are green dice. You have 2 eyes, 3 power, and 1 exhaust. Our dreams of imprisonment, you have 2 eyes, 2 power, 2 exhaust. And we have our dream of primal fear, which you have 2 eyes, 1 power, 1 2 power, 1 exhaust, and 1 hunt symbol. Now, all of these different things have different meanings. Let's say we take our 4 dice that we need here, and we get 2 blues, 1 yellow, and 1 green. Now, what we need to do is that after we take that 4 dice, we actually need to put 2 of them back into our bag. So say we're trying to go for power. We want to get green because it has more power options. And let's say we want to try and go for the depths because of its shadow power, and it does have a high amount of eyes. So we would put 2 back, and then we would roll the 2 dice that we drew. So we got 1 power on our blue. The object of the game is to gain 15 power before your opponent does. So the more power you can get, the better. So we have 1 blue, which is going to come down into our power section. And then we also have 1 green MV shadow token. So shadow tokens always come into this spot here, and dice do get placed in a certain turn order. If you look on our resource here, down at number 3, when resolving dreams, you always resolve 1 powers first, then 2 powers, then hunt tokens, then exhaust tokens, and then any eye tokens. So because we only had the 2 tokens, we start with the 1 power, and then we move over to our shadow power. So because we had to place the shadow eye on the MV track, it causes us to activate this special ability that is underneath it. So if we look on here, underneath the envy, re-roll 1 dream of the next player's choice. So that means that this player would allow me to have to re-roll one of my dreams. And seeing as the only one we have is this green one, basically we would re-roll this green, which has now become 1 power. So that 1 power is going to come into our power slot down on the second track here. Now that we have placed both of our dice on our track, we can either decide to end our turn, or we can push our luck and choose to go 1 spot up in the track, which would now allow us to draw 6 dice instead of the 4 that we had before. Now, because we don't have any exhaust or really anything else on our board except for power, there's really no reason not to push our luck and go for that 6. So like we did in the first round, instead of taking 4, we will now take 6 dice. And once again, we will discard 2 dice back into the bag. So let's say that we want to put, so we're going to keep trying to get power. So we're going to keep these, we'll keep that, and we'll keep one of those. Let's say that we want to put both of those back. So once again, we're going to roll all of our dice. And we just got, amazingly, we just got 4 exhaustion here. So what's going to happen with exhaustion, seeing as it's the only thing that we have, it activates. So we have exhaustion, exhaustion, exhaustion. Once you get full exhaustion on your character, you need to draw 1 dice from the bag, and you need to discard any power on your board that matches the color of that die. Now, luckily, we got a yellow die, so that's not too bad for us because we don't have any yellow power yet. And once we do that, our exhaustion is discarded, and now we're going to have this leftover exhaustion that is now going to go there. Once again, we can choose to push our luck and go up to 8 instead of 6, or we can choose to end our turn. So say we chose to end our turn instead of continuing, then we would do the end phase, which either allows us to discard 1 eye token from anywhere on our board, or we can discard all of our exhaustion. So we're just going to discard our exhaustion here, and it would then move on to the next player. So let's say our player over here, they want to try and catch up. They're going to start on 5 instead of starting on 4. So like we did, we're going to take 5 dice. Take 5. And we're going to discard 2 back into the thing here. So like we did before, power activates first, then exhaustion, then our eyes. So when we place a red eye The ability is you may move one eye onto the hunt space, which currently we probably wouldn't want to move any eyes onto the hunt space, but let's say we were up at like 3 or 4 on one of our things and we have no hunts and we just wanted to move our eye up here. Now when the hunt space fills up with 4 tokens, you automatically lose the game. So you do want to be careful about your hunt space being filled up, and that can either be filled by getting the eyes down here and choosing to move them up, or by rolling a hunt symbol on your dice. So let's say we did actually roll that hunt symbol. That would permanently be up here on our board. And this is more or less how you play the game going forward, back and forth between players. The only other thing we need to talk about is if an ability were to, say, get 4 eyes put onto it. If during a 2-player game it's 4, during any other player count it's 3. Let's say one of your shadow tracks gets up to 4 eyes. That means you have been consumed by a nightmare, and you will take the corresponding card that matches that track, and you have now become a nightmare. So now, once you've become a nightmare, your goals change. You're no longer drawing dice from the bag and rolling them. You're now trying to either have your opponent fill up their hunt track, or you're going to be stealing powers from your opponents to put on your own track. The example in the Nightmare of Fear here is that when any dreamer would resolve an eye or a hunt of primeval fear, so a red eye or the red hunt marker, move it to your card as 1 power. Then you may move an eye on their card to a hunt space on their card. So long as this character hasn't been consumed by a nightmare, this power is not too bad. So let's say, if I can get a red dice here, it was this player's turn and they rolled a dice and it didn't end up being a power. Let's say it ended up being an eye and they went to place the eye down here. This player would now be able to move it to our card as 1 power, which is going to increase our power rating. Again, the goal is to get to 15 power before your opponents, or to knock them out on the hunt track. And we're also going to be able to move 1 eye on their card into the hunt space. So let's say they had an eye up here. We could move that eye into the hunt space, currently moving their track forward. Now, all the different nightmares have different abilities. However, they are more or less similar. With the Nightmare of Envy, when any dreamer would resolve an eye or exhaust of envy, move it to your card as 1 power. Then you may choose either the dreamer rerolls any 2 dreams of their choice, and you take 1 and 2 powers that are rolled, or the dreamer rerolls 1 dream of your choice. The Nightmare of Imprisonment, when any dreamer would resolve an eye or exhaust of imprisonment, which is a yellow, move it to your card as 1 power. Then you may move an eye on their card to the exhaustion space. And Nightmare of the Depths, when any player would resolve an eye of the depths, so a blue dice, move it to your card as 1 power. Then you may draw 2 dreams, return 1 to the bag, and the dreamer rolls the other. So those all give you ways to gain power onto your side, but they also let you have little abilities to hinder your opponents. So that is what happens when your opponent activates your card. But what do you do on your turn when you are a nightmare? Like I said before, you no longer draw dice from the bag. Instead, you only have 2 options. You can either consume power, or you can send minions. If you choose to consume power, you would take the power of your nightmare color from your opponent, So let's say that our opponent had a 2 red here. You could say, I'm going to consume power. You can steal that 2 red for yourself, seeing as we are Primeval Fear, and you can add that to your player board. Your other option is to send minions, where you would draw 2 random dice from the bag. You would select one of them, and you would have your opponent roll that dice. That turned into an eye, and that would then activate this over here. And that is pretty much the game. You're repeating these steps until you either fill up your hunt phase and are consumed by the nightmare, or you get a total of 15 power and you overcome the nightmare. Unless you are a nightmare, in which case I guess you just nightmared other people. The one big thing I'm not huge on with this game is that you don't have any way of getting out of the nightmare once you've gotten into it. I would like to implement some sort of rule that you can get rid of the nightmare, because personally I find the dreamer phase is much more engaging than the nightmare phase is. So I kind of want to rewrite some rules to be able to get rid of the nightmares somehow, because you can get out of nightmares in reality. So it seems a little unfair to kind of just be stuck doing basically a slower game while your opponent's rolling dice, because the dice rolling is the game. It's a bit more engaging. Outside of that, though, I actually like the game quite a bit. I really enjoy the artwork. I enjoy dice rolling. I'm a fan of dice games. And I think it's a pretty fun game. I think it would be interesting at a higher player count, but I think it worked pretty well at 2. And that's pretty much all I have to say about Lucidity, Six-Sided Nightmare. If you guys have played this game, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. If this video has made you interested in this game, let me know that down below too. It's always nice to see what games interest people based on the stuff that we cover. And hopefully I will see you all next time. But until then, just remember that board games are for everybody. Until then, peace.